Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the VOTP platform. Here's a question for you. If you look at the younger generation, अपने आप देखते हैं इर्द-गिर्द अपने youngsters को that are growing up today around you. So, are you satisfied with what you see? आपको you feel satisfied with how they're growing up? Are they resilient? कोई bad news आती है, maybe they don't get the results they want, maybe they don't get a promotion, maybe they have an upset in a marriage. Do they bounce back? Do they bounce back quickly, or do they just get stuck in that issue? Are they secure in who they are? Confident हैं, वो कौन है, उनकी identity क्या है, उनका purpose क्या है? Do they feel that way? आपका क्या ख्याल है? Chat में बताएं ये क्या आप क्या satisfied हो youngsters के साथ, how they are growing up and what they are representing for us as a new generation coming up as an in the ummah. Are they ready to welcome challenges and take risks for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? क्या ख्याल है? Chat में कुछ बताएंगे मुझे, what you think about it? Am I getting any responses in the chat? What do you think? Okay. Oh, okay. Wow. It's not a very positive. I think I agree with you, what you're saying. You're not satisfied at all. They're confused. They're drowning. They're stuck. So, generally, I think we agree that there's an incredible space for improvement. For the vast majority, the answer is no. They're not going the way we would like them to go. And we are watching a generation crippled by anxiety. Worried हैं ये लोग, paralyzed हैं by fear of failure. And they're constantly seeking approval. किसकी approval? Allah की? They're seeking the approval of, they just want to belong, they want to accept. It's their major crisis if they don't get accepted by society, feeling insecure in themselves and especially about their future. And if we keep going this way, we'll lose them completely. If we don't change something, we have to change something. We think we are doing the right thing sometimes by just taking away them from screens, from video games, from movies. हम उनकी limit करते हैं ये चीज़ें. Instead, we enroll them in multiple courses, shuttle them back and forth for tuitions, hyper-focus them on academic performance so that they can go to an esteemed university or go abroad. तो ये हमारे mechanisms हैं to save them from this internet का जो भूत बैठा हुआ है. When it comes to the study of the deen, we treat it just like another subject. We put them in the Quran and Sirah courses, but each one stands completely on its own. ये वो कुरान पढ़ रहे हैं, वो सीरा पढ़ रहे हैं. Nothing unites subjects' knowledge together. Everything's connected. चाहे आप law पढ़ें, चाहे आप science पढ़ें, चाहे आप English पढ़ें, चाहे आप history पढ़ें, they are all connected. The whole world is connected. No subject stands in isolation. लेकिन हम पढ़ाते कैसे? Isolation में पढ़ाते. Yet the way we are raising and teaching them does not create a connection, a wholeness of life. Everything remains fragmented. There is limited effort on coordination to bring all these things together into a cohesive whole बन जाए. A taqwa conscious way of living of life. वो तो तभी होएगा जब सब चीज़ें connect करेंगे हम. By blindly adopting this modern fragmented approach, what are we doing? We are producing robotic performers. Results तो दिख रहे हैं जो हमें चाहिए, लेकिन robotism आ रही है. Not resilient believers नहीं बना रहे. The truth is कि आपका state, आपका government, आपके educational institutions will not save your children. You have put immense trust in these organizations, but they will not save your children. The media is actively corrupting them. if we do not step up as guardians, मुझे बताएं कौन खड़ा होगा? हम नहीं खड़े होंगे तो कौन खड़ा होगा इनके लिए? हमारे दिल में ही दर्द है. Today we will learn the science of how a child's brain is actually built from birth to becoming an adult, and what it needs at each stage, and your role in making that happen. By knowing the science, but knowing the science is only half the battle. Knowledge तो आ जाएगी, Sister Farhana में दे देंगी. But that's only half the battle. As an ummah, we fail at application. We get the knowledge, but we cannot apply it. Why? क्यों नहीं apply करते? What is the reason? Knowledge, इतने सारे videos and podcasts, everything's on there. We are getting a lot of knowledge. How come we are failing in application? Because our own mindsets suffer from cultural brainwashing. You know, एक false तह के ऊपर आप truth डालेंगे, वो नहीं जाता, नीचे ही नहीं जा सकता, उसकी रूट में false बैठा हुआ है. Right? So it's essential कि वो उसको हटाया जाए. So the mind suffers from cultural brainwashing and sometimes lacks critical thinking. You cannot raise children correctly then if you yourself are trapped in old beliefs. This is exactly why the Find Your Truth training platform exists. You have to unlearn करना पड़ेगा cultural conditioning to empower yourself. You have to build your own character first. बच्चे को आप नहीं सही कर सकते जब तक आप खुद को सही नहीं करेंगे. Because you cannot pour from an empty cup. पहले खुद को सही करें, then you can help your children. So इसके लिए हमारा Find Your Truth training platform है, and it helps you revive yourself towards your fitrah, inshallah. फिर दूसरी बात आती है कि you alone doing it will not resolve the issue. आप अपने को भी सही कर लें, अपनी फैमिली बच्चों को सही कर लें, शौहर को सही कर लें, इससे भी काम नहीं चलता. क्यों नहीं चलता? क्योंकि बाहर का तो इन्फ्लुएंस आ रहा है. अब तो किसी घर में you can't stop it through the internet. All the influences are coming in. And Islam is built on community. It's not built on एक छोटा सा family. Family का purpose ही ये है कि contribute करें to the community. Yet we have become dangerously isolated in our individual homes. And that is why we have the Find Your Truth Masjid Leader project. And it is the cornerstone of Ummah's revival. इसको emphasis दे रही हूँ because we need not only you performing at optimum level, but we need the masjids as the root center of our lives to perform at the prophetic standards. A masjid cannot just be a prayer hall. It must be the fortress that protects our families. It has to be the living center where we raise our youth as one body. एक unit की तरह हम उनको बड़ा करें. Please join this masjid project and play your part. Today we are honored to have Dr. Farhana Kulan with us. Sister Farhana is not just speaking from theory. As a dedicated practicing medical doctor with extensive frontline experience, she sees the reality of our physical and psychological health every single day. What makes her approach so vital for our community is how she bridges the gap between modern science and our deen. She brings a holistic vision that teaches us how to nurture our children. This is in perfect alignment with both the science of neurology and the fitrah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has gifted us. She will be presenting The Growing Child, an age-by-age guide to nurturing your child's brain. Dr. Farhana, you're very welcome to start. The floor is yours.
Yeah. Jazakallah khairan, Sister Faida, and welcome everyone on this platform of VOTP. And inshallah, today's topic is so huge. It's so huge. You know, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give clarity in my words. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, help you understand it with the right, perspective, within the framework of Islam. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us apply what we learn, for the betterment of the Ummah. So that with that, Dua, let's go ahead and get started. There's a lot of ground to cover, and inshallah, I think this is going to be a multi-part series. Okay. So, subhanallah, we're going to understand the human brain today, and the important catchphrase is, just love them smarter. Ikra is the first word, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, and we have to learn. We have to learn to be able to do a better job. Okay. So, subhanallah, myself, I'm a mom of three, so have seen, the kids at a very, very close, at very close quarters. Alhamdulillah, now they are, in the teenage, and one of them is, 21 years old. So I've gone through the entire, the phases of all the child's growth, and inshallah, so that actually has helped me a lot, and I've understood a lot while preparing this material, and I wish I had this information before I became pregnant. So that was a wish, and yeah, subhanallah, please, forward these sessions to anyone, any teens, and any uh, couples who are getting married and going to be having kids, because I think this is very, very valuable. So, as Muslims, and the our lens of looking at everything in the universe is through the lens which is prescribed by Islam, because of course Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator of the entire universe, and Allah knows the ins and out and each and every detail of the entire universe, and so He gives the best view possible. And tarbiyah is such an important role. It's such an important role in Islam. It's the event of a mom, becoming pregnant is such a huge event in the life of any of us human beings. We are welcoming a ruh, the Allah's creation, into this world, which is a test platform for the humans, and are we prepared for it? That is the big question, which I have for each and every one of you. I mean, have we even reflected at this enormity of this responsibility? Do we feel confident about having all the knowledge? That's one. Have we prepared ourselves to be able to do this in the best possible way? So these are some of the questions which we will be covering, and inshallah, the objective of this session is going to be to help us, get there. So now, to break down further, one of the main objective is to understand our role, as a Muslim parent in shaping the brain. Yes, you heard it right. We play a very, very important role in shaping the structure of the brain. Just let that sink in. You know, it's not that, the child is born and we just, helping feeding them, and, you know, changing their diapers, and, protecting them from the heat and the cold, and, by clothing them appropriately. So no, subhanallah, we are shaping the brain of the child. So let that sink in. To understand how we're shaping the brain, I want us to understand the basic structure of the brain. We will discuss the concept of neuroplasticity. We'll discuss pruning. So these are some fundamental concepts which I want to cover in this today's session. Also, I want to go ahead and cover the basic parts of the brain structure and the function, so we know, what the brain does and what its role is. And the important thing I want all of us to remember as we're going through is that brain is not something which is inside us. It is connected to the parents, the caregivers, to the outside universe and the environment. And as Sister Faida mentioned in her introduction, it's all interconnected. Okay. After that, we will go on to age-wise details, what happens within that particular age. And I've divided into 4 ages, as you can see on the screen: ages 0 to 3, 3 to 7 to 12, and then adolescence, to adults up to 25 years old. And in each, we will see what exactly brain development is going on, and then the best practices, the do's and the don'ts. Okay. And yeah, just to begin with, feel free to say Subhanallah, because as we go through this journey, you're just going to be Subhanallah. The ayat of the Quran are just going to you can understand them at another level. The hadith of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam are going to be coming out in different light. So Subhanallah, just feel free to um, get into that zone. And inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this session as a ibadah, as we are going in and seeing our signs within us. Okay. All right. One disclaimer or warning, or I want to kind of give before we start going in, and that's every one of us. We all have to know that there's nothing called perfect parenting. Okay. This is an empowerment session. It is not a um, self-judgment, or a session in which you want to kind of start feeling guilty. No, that's not the goal. So please be, in case you're kind of going in that action, protect yourself and from going to that. Okay. So there's nothing called perfect parenting. And so rather, what we can do is we can do Ikra first, right? That's exactly what we're going to get into. Secondly, we want to grow and heal ourselves and kind of make us capable of doing this humongous responsibility of parenting, in the best possible way. And thirdly, I mean, subhanallah, as I was going through this preparation of this, and as I've been learning myself more, I've found many places where I did damage, where I did wrong, where I did not do the right thing. So you're going to see many of those. But remember, our role is to repair. And subhanallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has always, just as He has opened the doors of Tawbah at any time and every time, exactly the same way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has opened the door of repair, and for repair in this relationship, for repair of your child's brain, a relationship with the child as well. So subhanallah, so I please be very, very cognizant of this fact. There's nothing called perfect parenting. Rather, we are here to learn and empower ourselves, and there is tremendous opportunity for repair and growth of things which we probably did not do the best way. So again, just like Tawbah, in the repair, the three things which we got to do. The first thing, we got to recognize what was wrong. Secondly, we got to take a deep breath, and we got to be kind to ourselves and forgive ourselves, not going to shame or guilt. And thirdly, we got to say that this was a mistake, and then we make a reconnection or repair. Okay. So that is very important. This needs to be with us throughout our sessions, inshallah. Okay. So, subhanAllah, so basically from anxiety or from, confusion, we want to go towards a direction of being empowered, being knowledgeable in this, and then, grounded in science, which is nothing but, the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how He does things in this world. Okay. So again, I probably cannot emphasize enough how huge responsibility this, parenting is. And thinking back myself, as a mom, I was very excited when I came to know that I'm pregnant. But did I realize the gravity of this? No, no, I don't think so. I didn't. And then I we get been busy with getting the crib ready, and getting the diapers ready, and which kind of milk bottles are the best, our own nutrition. Okay, yes, I know in our moms, they are always behind us, take care of your nutrition. So all that is definitely there, but not really to a point that where, I mean, my God, I'm responsible for the for creating these structures in the brain, which we're going to look into now. And that really did not sink in until when I started learning about this. Okay. So these are the questions that I asked myself. And was I confident? Probably was ignorant and did not know that how huge a responsibility it was. So maybe in that, I was maybe in bliss at that time. um, you know um, but then later on, as a kid grows and then you start having challenges, that's when you start feeling lost. You don't know what to do. You get frustrated. You lose it, right? So that's kind of what happens, right? So let's, and this is probably the experience of every parent, and that's fine. And let's go ahead and empower ourselves, inshallah. So again, just to kind of, it's always good to zoom out all the way, and then let's kind of zoom into the neuron of the brain, right? So when we zoom out, the whole universe and the kainat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the human being in it, right? And the role of the human being is, Khalifatul Ard, right? That is the objective of human being. And in the FIT course, we do it. We have the ruh, we have the body, right? We have the mind, and the ruh basically is coming into the mom's womb, right? And there's a mission on the planet Earth. And the body is a huge, immense tool which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given for us to be able to perform the mission. So that's how we're going to, look at our brain. Now, the ayat, no, so the hadith from Sahih Bukhari, which states that no child is born upon the fitrah. So no child is born except upon the fitrah, and then it's his parents who make him either a Jew or a Christian or a fire worshipper, right? So subhanallah, this is a hadith by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this kind of sheds light into what we've just been talking about, that the role of a parent in defining not only what he becomes externally, right, like what practices he does as a Jew or a Christian, but into this trickles down deep into the brain structures as well, right? So again, just let this sink in. Our role as parents is huge. Parents, can also be any caregivers, the primary caregiver who's taking care of the kid. And the important thing to remember here is, there are certain animals who take care of the kids or the babies as a group, and that's called alloparenting. We are, one of them. Elephants, there's under, creation of Allah subhanahu, which does alloparenting. And alloparenting is very, very important. Again, bringing in just like the entire universe is interconnected, so are the entire community is playing a very, very important role as well to again bring in the connectivity inside the new brain cells. We're going to see. So we're going to be talking about the word connection, integration, subhanallah, all through this section of especially learning the brain structure. So important for the, again, the parents and the community is huge. The roles of the masajids is huge in forming the kids' brain structure. Okay. Now, so we are just not a bystander. We are the architect. The parents, the external community, we are all the architect of their brain's mind. Okay. And again, we do not want to get overwhelmed by this responsibility. Rather, we want to learn about it. We want to be able to, have, the action tools. And in case anything goes wrong, we want to always repair it and come back. Okay. So that's the attitude which we want to go in with. Okay. Now let's go ahead now from the expanse of the universe, the earth, and now we come down into the brain. So this image which you see on this slide is this is a neuron, right? If you can see my cursor, this is a neuron, and then this has a lot of extensions or protrusions, you want to call it, called the dendrites. Okay, so this is a neuron cells, and these are a lot of small cells around supporting cells called the glial cells. So this is the microscopic image of a neuron. Okay, alrighty. Now let's go on to the next slide. All of the screens are visible, right? I'm audible as well.
Yeah, all good.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. Okay. All right. So now let's do a quiz. Okay. So I will, ask all of you to, type it in the chat. So how many neurons do you think the human brain contains? Is it 1 billion? It is 86 billion, 1 trillion, 500 million. Just go ahead and give me a guess. It's just to kind of, so that this will sink in. Yeah. Just give you a few more seconds. Yes, please go ahead. Yes, please chat in. And again, this is not a test or exams. It's just to kind of get us engaged in the session. Yeah, go ahead. You want to please chat in. Put in the chat any number A, B, C, or D.
Yeah. So we're getting billions and millions, and we're getting lots of responses.
A lot of responses. Okay, perfect. Yeah, subhanallah. So it's huge. That's the one thing which we come from this. So subhanallah, the number of the neurons, which based on the science is around 86 billion neurons. Close to 100 billion neurons is the number of neurons that in each single cell we saw in the previous slide. So it's those we have at least 86 billion neurons, 86, 90 neurons in the brain of a child. Okay. And this is more than, just to give context, this is more than the stars visible in the Milky Way. Subhanallah. So these are all individual cells, sitting in the brain of the child, when they come in. The most of the brain cells in the front part are already there, in the back part of the brain, which is the cerebellum, actually once the child grows in the first 0 to 1 or 2 years, cerebellar neurons, actually some of them start developing as well. But the total neurons, in the brain is around 90 billion neurons. Okay. And and every time, and the activity which is happening inside these neurons is of two kinds. The energy types which you see in these neurons. One is the electrical energy is there, and then there's also the chemical. There's chemical reactions taking place as well. Okay, so these are the two main ways how this is happening. So anytime, basically when you hold your kid or talk to them, you can literally see them, they're lighting up, so subhanallah. Okay. Now we're going to look a little bit of a diagram of the brain cell. So the single brain cell is called a neuron. Okay, so this is the structure of the neuron on the left side, you can see, and this is kind of the main cell body. Okay, this center thing is the nucleus. It has a long protrusion, and that is called the axon. Okay, and then it has this teeny branches, which are called the dendrites. Okay. And these dendrites are kind of like if again, like the tree, the branches, coming out. But the purpose of these dendrites is they again go and make connection with the dendrites or the axons of the other neurons. In this picture, you can see very faintly the dendrites of the other, neuron. So basically, when the kid is born, the central cell bodies, those are there, but the connections are the ones which are going to get formed, are going to get formed later on. Okay, and that is where we play a very, very important role. Okay. Okay. So, and the place where the connection is happening between one neuron and one branch of neuron, with the other, that's called a synapse. Okay. And subhanallah, again, this is kind of the way they communicate. They communicate information between the two, and they do it in forms of usually chemicals. Small chemicals are released, and the chemicals are released. There also are the electrolytes, with a charged sodium atom, potassium atom. Those are released, and they, so electrical activity and chemical activity goes on, changes the shape of these structures, and the messages is getting passed. Okay, it's very, very interesting. If you want to look into how these messages passed, it's at the chemical level and at the electrical level, it is very, very interesting to see how this information is passed. Okay. And subhanallah, so and whenever when parent has any interaction with the kid, the messages are getting passed between this individual set of neurons which the kid was born with. Okay. And also the chemicals, and some of the, you probably heard these names of these neurotransmitters or neuromodulators, chemicals which are released like dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin. These are kind of some other, some of the common ones which you probably have heard. So both is electrical reaction as well as a chemical reaction. Okay, so that is a synapse. Okay, now let's see what is happening. Yeah, now, so, and in the first 2 years of life, the amount of connections that are formed is 1 million synaptic connections per second. Okay, let that sink in. So it's 1 million connections are happening every second. Whatever we do, that neuron is getting excited, then the other neurons then they're forming those, the connections. And every interaction is a construction event, and that's kind of where we are giving the experiences to the child, and that is causing these connections to form. So that is where our role actually comes in. Okay, whether the kid is, we're feeding the baby, you're caressing the baby, you're giving eye contact to the baby, you're hugging the baby, all of these are actually forming those, are causing these connections to get formed. Okay, and the same thing, and if you're not doing this as well, then the ones which need to be formed are not formed, and it's the brain is getting formed in a way which is not optimal for its job on this earth. Okay, so that is the amount of connections which are getting formed. All right, now this is kind of this is a subway train map of, I think it's New York, right, in 2019. And the reason I put it is just because of it's easy to understand the connections which are formed in the brain, with this subway track, the subway, the subway tracks or the subway routes. So imagine like every neuron is like a home, okay, in that New York City, and then a group of homes, is like a neighborhood in New York, and that's kind of like it's kind of particular region of the brain, having particular function. Okay, and then now as a child, so the child is born with these, these nodes for these homes, are there. They don't have these branches and those connections. Those are not fully grown yet. That's what is getting formed later on. As a child, is born, and and we're interacting with the child, and so these interconnections are getting laid. Between the kid heard a sound from the mom's voice. That their voice was very calm, so the emotion center of the brain was also fired. Now now they're going to they're going to be connecting. Those neurons are going to come together, synapse, and form those connections. So basically, this kind of a connections are getting formed, and the things which is repeatedly happening, that are going to form stronger connections. Okay, so basically, it's the entire wiring and the interconnection again of these single neurons, which is in the brain structures, are happening in the early childhood, mainly in the 0 to 3rd year. And that's where we play the role. Okay. And what happens when these connections form? So here you see in this diagram, there's something called myelination, right? So just like in the New York subway station, they kind of put this underground tunnels or a covering around that to protect that, the tracks which are always being used. The same thing, that's exactly what the neuron does. The one neuron with the hearing is connecting with the calming neuron in the emotional center of the brain. Now they are going to connect, and then what happens is that the particular cells which will come and line up, which is shown in the red, they call it Schwann cells, and they come and wrap around, and like a plastic cover on the wires, electrical wires, similar to that, so that and speed, so that speed goes up. So they, once they're covered, they are also protected. Plus, the speed also goes up very, very high by 100 times. The speed of this electrical signal which is passing from that neuron, which started here, and then just passes fast, super speed, 100 times. So that's called actually the myelination. Okay, so that is happening. So the more things happening, the more the kid is hearing the mom's voice. So then the kid now knows the mom's voice, and the calming response is coming along with the mom's voice. So it's passing, and that connection is getting formed very, very strong. So we actually are playing very, very important role in making these connections. Okay, that is kind of what our role is. All right. And so the brain size, we already store most of the brain, except brain cells, the neurons are already there, by birth. There's in the cerebellum, the behind part of the brain, they still form in the first 2 or 3 years. But what is basically causing this brain size to grow in this first 1 year? 80% of the brain sizes of an adult is developed within this first 2 to 3 years of age. Is what is happening basically is that branches are coming out, too many branches, and too many connections are getting formed, and myelin is getting formed. So that is kind of what is causing the brain to double its size in the first 2 years, actually. Okay, so the connections, synapses is going to increase. The supporting cells called the glial cells are getting increased. The branches, the dendrites are going to get increased, and then the myelin is going to get laid down as well. Okay, all right. And the reason I'm going to go, I'm doing a little bit detail is this is kind of important. When we talk about all what's happening, these basics need to be there. Okay. Then we have what is called as pruning. Pruning is basically, and so the synapse, so many connections, like innumerable connections are getting formed in the first 2 to 3 years of life. And what the brain does is then based on um, first is like open floodgates, let them form connections, and then later on, the ones which are reused again and again are getting formed, this myelin sheath, and so then the brain will keep those and will take away some, and that's called pruning. Just like once in your garden, it grows too much, you kind of prune off some, right? So the pruning takes place in early childhood, as well as it takes place in adolescent as well. So this is something you'll hear in adolescent as well. Okay. And again, that's a way of how the brain is kind of getting focused on what its environment and what it needs to do in its particular context, right? So pruning is important. Then, of course, saves the energy, efficiency of the brain as well. Okay. Now, any questions thus far? Is anyone having any questions? Is this clear? Is the space good? Yeah, if anyone just wants to unmute it, give me a feedback quickly.
Any questions? It seems good, Sister Farhana. Following it so far, it's simple. Thank you.
Simple. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
So yeah, now you probably have heard this neuroplasticity, quite a bit recently. It's a new term. See, all the science of the brain is pretty recent. Okay, this all started in 1990s. Okay, and because of the ability to do the SPECT imaging, there are more ways how to look. Which are lighting up, which is neurons where. So because of that, now we're getting to know a lot of a lot of this is coming out. So neuroplasticity is again it's again, subhanallah, again here we have to really Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kind of wants us to give the opportunity to change at any time, and that is neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is basically the brain's way of saying, tell me what you want to change, and I can do it. You make the command, you decide with your choice and tell me, and I will do it. That is exactly what the brain is, just kind of like a genie to to the ruh or the consciousness in you, and the choice maker in you. So if you look at the picture right here, so neuroplasticity basically means, as we already talked about, if if the connection of the sound and how it makes it feel, or any kind of any two parts of the brain which are relating with that particular event, the connection gets formed. You do again and again and again and again and again, it kind of it will form the myelin sheets around. Messi, he looks at the ball where it's coming from, his feet will turn that particular direction, right? Or his head will, if he's a shooter, his head will jump in that direction. So those the muscles which control the nerves, which control the muscles, his eye, the vision area, all that are going to get connected, and that's why it happens at split seconds, right? So that's kind of the neuroplasticity. But again, if you don't use this now for a long time, if you stop playing, you're going to lose it a little bit. And also, if you start doing something else, now the brain can start forming that, can form start forming those pathways as well. So neuroplasticity means it can always change at any age, whether you're 90, 100, can change, but the rate of change definitely is different. It's brain is very, very plastic in early years. And subhanallah, for me, neuroplasticity is nothing but it is a evidence. I mean, it's a scientific evidence of of Rahman Rahim, the Rahma of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, right? Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is giving this open opportunity for everyone to change anytime, and Allah loves those who constantly repent. In this ayah, and constantly, because Allah knows that when your already tracks are laid in a particular way, just that impulse will come. You'll end up doing that same, sin or the wrong thing. But you keep, and that's why Allah says, no problem. You can go and repent because Allah knows that this is how the structure is. Of course, He's the one who made it, and He knows that if you keep going back again and again, that this will become weak, and the right, the right action will become stronger. So subhanAllah, you'll start seeing the ayats of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at a more deeper level, subhanallah. Yeah.
Subhanallah.
Okay. So again, just about neuroplasticity, but the peak plasticity, I mean, is of course in 0 to 3 years. You can change any time, but the most time when you can change things, or where you can set the right foundation tracks or the right subway tracks, as we saw, that it's in childhood. And that is where the role of the parents and the environment around it comes. Okay. So that is very, very important. So that's why it is. There's also a critical and a sensitive bit. So certain brain functions, like ability to develop language, vision, the emotional regulation, that also there are certain periods, that the early years, 0 to 3. That's when maybe up to 5 language or so. But that's when these you can lay those tracks. If you don't lay the tracks, you lose the opportunity. Okay. Again, that makes it very, very, very critical for us to be conscious of what we are doing as parents. Okay. The second wave again comes in adolescence, right? And again, adolescence, subhanallah. So at that time, the adolescent is figuring out who he is. He's now deciding who he wants to be, and then he's also be able to go and lay those tracks at that. So Allah subhanahu again gives an opportunity for him to decide. It's not that the parents decided and that's done. No, no, no. You got another opportunity coming in the period of adolescent, when he gets to decide. We call them teens, but subhanallah, this is a period where they get to decide whom they want to be. Now they're the front part of the brain is having, has all the myelin and the thinking and connected. They are able to decide that for themselves, and they get to decide who they want to be, and now they can also have the opportunity of laying their tracks. So it's very plastic at that time as well in adolescent. But again, it's a lifelong. It's Allah's rahmah, subhanallah. At anytime it can happen. Anytime. Okay. Yes. Next, I want to just go to this quick, hand model of the brain. Subhanallah, such a simple model. Dr. Dan Siegel, he's done a lot of work in this early childhood and the attachment, and he integrates all the neurobiology, psychiatry, neurochemistry, uh, uh, along with parenting, role of the environment. So he's done a very good integrated and a wholesome work. I like his work, and he has, just for the people to understand, he's kind of suggested what is called the hand brain model. Many of you probably have heard that. So if you take up your hand, and this is the brain stem, the lowermost part of the brain. Okay. And if you kind of bend your thumb into the middle, that's it's called the limbic part of the brain. That's the emotional part of the brain. And then this one, your fingers, now you kind of cover your emotional part of the brain, and that's the outermost, the cortical area of the brain. Okay. And the frontmost is the just behind here, there's a it's called a prefrontal cortex. Okay. So this is kind of the simple structure of the brain. And the brainstem, it starts forming way early, even and when the kid is in the womb of the mom. Okay. And then the limbic system is formed again in the early childhood, and up to 12 years, this is formed, and this is formed. These two are formed. So this one it gets formed from 12 years on to up to 25. What do you mean by one form? Because I already told you, right? The brain, the neuron cells are there. So that is there. That's true. The cells of neurons are there, but the interconnections and the myelin and all of that laying is happening later on in age 12, right? So that is kind of what the what I mean by getting formed. All right, so this is important to remember, and we'll come back to how now for the brain to function, everything has to be coordinated. So just remember again, the connections have to be there uh, for everything to for you to be functioning in the right way. Okay, I'll go quickly over the functions of the of these three parts, so you'll know what the role. So the brain stem is mainly for the autopilot things which what our body needs. For example, it needs to be taking breaths. The body, so it's like the body is a uh, is a tool which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to uh, you know keep you alive until your time is here, right? And the body will do lot of things are done automatically, and those the brainstem does. Some of the important ones are breathing, right? You take your breath with a note or not. I mean, you can override and take deep breaths or hold your breath. You can do that, but it happens with your heartbeat, right? So subhanallah. So these are again a lot of things are happening inside the immune system, the regulation, maintaining of the temperature. I mean, you name it. There's so much happening without your knowing, right? The sleep cycle, then and also when there's any danger comes, running away from it or fighting against it to protect yourself, or acting, as if you're frozen up, right? Like an opossum, right? All those things are reflex. You have no your consciousness does not have any input in that, right? So those are all from the brain stem, and that's kind of formed way in the womb of a mom, and at birth this part is very, very strong. Then you have the limbic system, and the limbic system is kind of the big one, and the limbic system is more mainly the emotions and the chemicals related with emotions, memories. There's memory centers here. uh, those are the limbic system, which play a very, very important role in the early childhood as well. And this, as we mentioned, is coming at 12. And this once this gets connected with everything, this will take on the role of a boss, and the deciding, the impulse control, the thinking, problem solving. All of those are actually functions which start later on. They start developing around 12 years old. So that's why a little kid, cannot control he can't control. If you explain to the kid, you should, like a 2-year old, or maybe even a 5-year old, that you should not be crying because this is not the right thing to do, and it doesn't help you. It's not going to get all that logic at this point. Okay, it just feels scared, and the kid is going to cry, right? So the ability to control, think, all the executive functions, cognitive functions, the decision making, all of that actually will start with the prefrontal, in this area. And this area gets developed with all that myelin and all the branches and synapses later on by 12 up to 25. And hence Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, does not punish these kids even if they do wrong, before the age they develop this. And actually, and yeah, and Allah subhanahu actually catches, he questions this area of the brain, right, as when he takes accountability as well. So those are some of the connections with our hadiths and with the Quran. All right, so this is important, and again here I have to talk about integration, or connection. It's very, very important for these neurons to form with connection with these neurons to form connection. These neurons, they have to be all well connected to be functioning well later on. And these connections, interconnections, start getting laid way early, 0 to 3 years. And we will discuss that later. Okay, so this was the hand model we discussed about. A couple more things about, so we can discuss these two parts. That's the limbic, or the emotional, the brain, and the brainstem as a downstairs brain. And the main role of this downstairs brain is kind of survival, right? Survival in this world is kind of, be in the world until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wants it to be. That's kind of the main role of this part of the um, brain. And then the upstairs is kind of the roof part. When the consciousness comes in, that is engaging with the upper part, and making all the decisions and all of that. Okay, so you can just simple, if you want to divide the brain, upper brain and upstairs and downstairs brain. And this is important because for controlling your emotions, you have to have the upper brain override, or not override, but control or suggest what's the right thing to this the limbic part. Okay, if that connection is gone, you'll find yourself in what's called the reactive phase. Your kid did not do your homework and you're yelling at him. That is a reactive phase, because even, and that happens very fast because there's no connection. If you are having good connection, and if you are conscious of it, then you would think, why is he not doing, what could be possible reasons, what's a better strategy, all that would be engaging your upstairs. Um, so that's kind of the important between those connections, are very important to regulate ourselves. You can be in a reactive if there's no connection, or it can be in a receptive, flexible, adaptable, in the strategic thinking to kind of figure out. That'll be when you are having good connection. The other one more aspect of the brain structure I was wanting we just kind of know this right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. So the right side of the brain plays a very, very important role in the early childhood, and the right side of the brain is able to get the wholesome picture. It's the zoomed out picture, and the wholesome picture is able to be got by the right. And it does not just depend on words, but it can pick up all those subtle cues from the mom's face, whether it is her tone in the voice, probably even her, the vibrations, probably her the how her appearance of the eyes, or whether it's frowning or she's happy, she's sad, the facial muscles, all that actually is done by the right hemisphere. And this so right hemisphere is very, very active in the very, very early years. Okay, so that is something about. Okay, so I think that's pretty much about the brain structure which I wanted to cover. Now I think we can move on to yes. Okay. Any questions thus far?
Sister Farhana, there's a question there
Yeah.
from Brother Zulkanan about why shouting back at a screaming child neurologically futile.
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah, we will come to that. We will come. Why
Hmm.
it is harmful. We will come to that. Yeah.
Okay. And
So,
Sister Farhana, keep an eye on the time. I don't know whether you want to partition this talk off and how you want to go, because we
yeah.
are, just
How
giving
much?
you, it's,
Yeah.
we're coming to the hour now. So,
Yeah. How much more
yeah.
minutes you want me to go, Sis Faida? Do you want me to? I can just
Just try
introduce.
start wrapping it up. It's
Okay.
at a good point as soon as
Okay.
possible. And then we can have, the next
Okay.
day. Yeah, inshallah.
Perfect. Okay, so I think so today basically I think we covered the structure of the brain and how the all
Mhm.
the myelin is laid, the connections are made, all of that. So I think with that background now it becomes very easy for us to understand what you're going to talk about. So I'm just going to introduce you the developmental stages quickly, and then we will pause, and then inshallah the next session we will do the 0 to 3 years. The more details about that. Okay, so
Okay.
yeah. So subhanallah, I mean, Ali radiallahu anha, he, described three phases of raising a child, 7-7-7 model. And subhanallah, the psychologists, they use the 7-7 model even now. So, the play for 7 years, teach them. The kid is in the learning and the receptive for teaching in the 7 years, and then you become friends in the next 7 years, right? So 0 to 7, 7 to 14, and then 14 to adulthood, you're a friend, right? So this is kind of a wisdom which is right on, and this is the 7-7-7 model used by the psychologist. Okay, all right. So yeah, so in the first, you basically you really don't want to kind of hinder the growth, and just give a positive environment in a nutshell. That's kind of what you want to do in the phase one. You want to meet their needs. Okay, and phase two, more of mentoring, teaching, guiding, the front, the self-control, impulse, all that start getting developed at this point. And then by phase three, all of this has developed. Now they want more of a guidance, mentor, and stuff like that. Okay, let me see. Yes, and the important thing about the brain kind of has this kind of stages. It goes in stages. In 0 3, the most important is that the here the parents probably play the most important role. Okay, and every time you look at the kid and smile, you hug, you feed, soothe the baby when it's crying. All this is forming those connections between the various parts of the brain, and which is essential for the kid later on, whether it's for regulation, whether it's for having high self-esteem, for all of those. Okay, Then we have 3 to 7 where the prefrontal cortex starts, the front part starts developing, but in mainly the movement and play, it helps the brain develop. By 7 to 14 years, you can, start teaching the kid values, exposing to the various subjects of the world. And then by 14 to 25, they form they come in their adolescence, they form their identity, they decide whom they want to be. So by then, they should know who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, they should know who Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is, they should know what the message of Quran is, what the world is about, what they're supposed to do here, and then they kind of move it forward from there on. Okay, so that is, it happens in stages. We will go through that. Okay, so I think I'm going to stop it here, because now we're going to enter into this you're going to enter into this next age. Okay, any questions this far? So I know the brother asked a question regarding I can just briefly explain that. So basically, remember the two, you can either be re- receptive, flexible, adaptable, come up with the right solution. That's when you are, when there's a good connection, and when your front part is thinking, that's when you can do that, right? But if you get triggered, and in that moment of a trigger where something reminded you of, something in the childhood which has a negative emotion associated with that, then you could, if your regulation control is not good, you could lose that, the connection at that time, and then you can go based on what reaction, what emotion was triggered, with its fear or whatever, you can either get angry and fight it out, or you can run away from that, just avoid and go away from that, without dealing with the issue. So you could do that, and that becomes a reactive thing. So that's kind of what is basically happening. And this can be, we can train ourselves to become more regulated and more conscious. So and that's very, very important. And in kids, they are going to be reactive. They are. So the fact that we can expect a kid, I'm explaining the kid so much, and they are not understanding. If you tell that about a 5-6 year old kid, that's just, we don't know them, we don't know how the brain is. That's all it is about. You can't. So what you do is so the kid basically borrows your regulation at that time. So you have to be calm in that situation, and at the same time you have to make sure that the kid is felt safe. You can talk to them about the emotion, what they're feeling, and say, yeah, that's, we understand what you're feeling. Name the emotion. Apparently, when you name the emotion, they've calmed down. The part of the brain starts releasing some calming chemicals. So you name the emotion, you stay with them in that place without us becoming like them. So that's kind of the biggest thing we have to train ourselves to do. It is difficult. Trust me, as parent, it'll happen. And if at all that happens, if at all kind of, you're too busy, or you had something else on your head, you were worried or stressed, and it happened, then we have to, make sure, as I said, repair. We have to do the repair. First of all, we have to try to make ourselves not be in those moments that often. But secondly, we have to, if we need to walk away, we need to walk away at that point, if it's too bad. But later on, we have to come and repair. And repair is first recognizing. Again, it's same as Tawbah. We have to recognize what we did was wrong. Be kind to ourselves, not go into the guilt or shame for ourselves, but be kind. And then, explain to kid, that was a mistake, and that was not right. And, you're safe, and I love you, so you got to kind of make that up as a repair. So that is a little bit of explanation of that, because that's very, very important thing. And trust me, every one of us has those moments where we lose those connections. So um, um, please do not go into that guilt or shame and avoidant thing. Rather, face it on, accept it, and make it better. Yeah, I hope that answers that brother's question. Anything else? Any other questions based on what we'll cover? Some of it will come back actually again. But yeah.
There's a question on diet, Sister Farhana. Does diet affect the brain development?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes. So, breast milk, the omega-3, we have Sister Safia Gopalani, she was a nutritionist, and she's done a lot of work, and, on nutrition, and in pregnancy, and before, in pregnancy, and early childhood. So we will forward those. We can put those maybe sessions on the BOTP, Sister Safia's on nutrition, the early childhood and pregnancy. So yes, it plays a very, very important role. Yeah, nutrition plays an important role. Yeah.
Any other questions? You got a survey out there. Please do answer the survey. We get Sister Farhana will also get to know if you have any particular areas you have concerns on. You can write them in the survey, and she'll inshallah cover it in the upcoming series. So please do the survey and do write your questions in the chat or speak up.
Yep. So if my audience can just type in one takeaway or something which stuck with them in the chat, it'll be appreciated.
No, I was Sister Anna, you're talking about, the later part, it develops with the hand model. This develops later, right? So when it's developed, well, how come the adult is reacting when it's developed?
So the connections start laying very early, 0 to 3. That is why when we see based on the attachment theory, the work done by Dr. Dan Siegel, the moms they satisfy some basic needs, then the self-regulate those connections will start laying down. Most of the people, those laying down the foundations are weak. So based on
The thumb one is weak, or what is it?
the connection between the neurons in the prefrontal to the limbic system, that connections are weak.
Oh, I
That
see.
connections of the foundation is weak.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why you see the more the foundation weak, the more you see the flipping in the adults.
So they go more by the emotions and the sort of
The connections are weak.
So it's
And
their
we want to.
reactions then, yeah.
They're more in the reaction mode.
Mhm.
So a lot of it has to, so there's definitely there. But again, this can be, as I said, neuroplasticity is there. So we cannot blame that, whatever it is, my connections were laid weak in childhood and I'm going to have that. No, 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 no. Neuroplasticity is there. You can
You
make your.
can rebuild it, yeah.
Yes, it is
Yeah.
our responsibility and job to spend time and reflect and first of all figure out, what issues we had as, and then reflect and then decide what we want and make those. Yeah, so we have to. So that's why most of them they are laid in a. So the statistics was like actually in the next session we have the types of attachments in that 45% of people, not clinically sick people but regular people who are not even diagnosed with anything, they have issues with their attachment, and hence those regulatory fibers are not the foundations are weak, just put it in other words. Yeah. And that's when you see them lose their. So for example, mom was extremely stressed when the kid was 0 to 3 years, and was not able to be there for the kid, emotionally present, or there was a lot of, the kid was scared when he was growing, with loud noises and all that in home, in the 0 to 2, kid getting alarmed, then the brain is kind of working about security is important. There's
Yeah.
at that point, the brain is not going to devote time to just make those fibers. And so so this so the foundations are weak, and that's kind of why we see this adults kind of lose it pretty fast. And unless it, again, you can override this, the power of the human mind, the ruh to be the person that I will never lose it. That's a choice, and that's a 1 second, not a 1 second, it's a split second choice, and that anyone and every one of us can make it right now, that we will never ever talk to kids with loud voices that scare them. We will never ever lose lose it in front of the kids. If at all it comes to that point, just we'll walk off and we'll come back and revisit when we are calm. We can. That is a decision. That's just a choice.
Yeah, that's a priority we have to give. Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. Sister Nabia, please unmute yourself and ask Sister Farhana.
मेरा ये क्वेश्चन था कि जो भी हम इश्यूज देखते हैं तो आफ्टर अ सर्टेन एज हमारे पास मतलब हम अगर उस प्रोसेस को रिपीट बार बार करते हैं तो वो चीज़ आपने कहा कि न्यूरोप्लास्टिसिटी के मेथड की वजह से हमारी पर्सनैलिटी का वो जो इशू है या जो एट्रीब्यूट हम लाना चाहते हैं वो आ जाती है। तो क्या इसमें कोई टाइम लिमिटेशन होती है, लाइक कोई आइडिया होता है कि इतने टाइम में अगर हम लोग रेपिटेशन करेंगे जिस चीज़ को हम अपनी पर्सनैलिटी में लाना चाह रहे हैं तो वो आ जाएगी, या फिर इसमें एफर्ट का आता है कि आप जितनी ज़्यादा एफर्ट पुट करेंगे उतनी जल्दी वो चीज़ आपकी पर्सनैलिटी में आएगी? क्योंकि एक मैंने हैबिट से रिलेटेड रिसर्च पढ़ी थी जिसमें था कि कोई भी हैबिट जब आप अपने अंदर डेवलप करना चाहते हैं तो आप कॉन्टीन्यूसली वो काम जो है 66 डेज तक अप्रॉक्सीमेटली अगर करते हैं तो वो चीज़ आपकी हैबिट बन जाती है। तो क्या इस चीज़ को हम रिलेट कर सकते हैं कि जो भी एट्रीब्यूट हमें लग रहा है कि हमारी पर्सनैलिटी में जो एक सर्टेन एज में डेवलप हो जाना चाहिए था और वो नहीं हुआ, तो अब हम उसको अप्रॉक्सीमेटली 6 डेज तक अगर हम करते हैं तो वो चीज़ हमारी पर्सनैलिटी में आ जाएगी, या फिर इसमें कोई और फैक्टर जो है वो हेल्प आउट करता है?
राइट। सो डेफिनेटली जो न्यूरॉन जो हमेशा हम यूज करेंगे, दोज द ones which fire frequently will connect. So that's they call the Hebb's law. तो बार बार, so that is effort, आप उसको बार बार करें उसको, that is one thing. The second thing which can do to enhance this process fast is emotion. It is very important to put in emotion into that activity. So you're now kind of incorporating emotion wale neuron ko bhi aap usme la rahe ho. I have to look how that makes it happen faster and easier, but that is one more thing, emotion. So aap usme aap emotion bhi laye, you want to feel that as well. um, I want to be a thankful person, so then you kind of want to for a moment sit and feel how you're feeling, about being a thankful person, what chemicals are being released. So then you're bringing in those, I guess, those chemical neurotransmitters are in wahan pe, and you're making it faster. So this example I'll give you the language. So language, typically language development na with up to 5-7 years the kid can get language very fast. Uske baad it takes difficult for us to learn a language, a new language. But if person falls in love with another person, I mean the of opposite gender with a different language, he can learn language easily. So this is where I think emotion also can come in. So effort and emotion, and obviously, and again, yeah, and of course, and again, this is all what we know. Then I'm sure there's more levels to it, like our asking for help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is again going to make a lot our niya, and then and asking for Allah's help. So those will be the higher levels which will probably have a tremendous impact in us getting those pathways. Yeah. Yeah, any other questions we have? Yeah.
Good, Sister Vanna. We also, the group we are opening on awareness to enlightenment. That is also looking at this thing of emotions and thoughts and where we react, and looking at the beliefs that are holding those patterns in place and how to replace them. So that kind of quickens it, if you dig out the root of the belief that is holding that emotion and thought in place and replace it with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Sirah's way of doing things, तो वो इतना इतना पीरियड नहीं वेट करना पड़ता, इतनी टाइम नहीं. This is what my experience is, and having personally experienced it, you can come out of things quite fast. Allah Ta'ala has really blessed us in this way, given us a way out.
Subhanallah. Bilkul, bilkul. Yeah. Yeah. Subhanallah. As I said, those connections just zoom get formed within they
या
just
नियत की बात है, इंटेंशन की बात है, कल्ब को प्योर किया, moving towards it, and Allah guides them, inshallah, inshallah things get fixed. And as you said, I think the major point of Sister Vana, I really appreciate your saying that, is don't be hard on yourself. We have all made mistakes, we are all impure, गलतियां हम सबसे हो गई हैं, और बच्चों पे जो गलतियां हुई हैं वो हम बहुत हार्शली अपने खुद को ब्लेम करते हैं, बट अल्लाह ताला इज़ फॉरगिविंग, एंड अल्लाह ताला इज़ ऑल्सो ब्लेसेस द चाइल्ड एज वेल। एंड आप खुद देखिए, आपके बच्चों को कितना गाइड किया जा रहा है, इवन दो इन स्पाइट ऑफ आवर मिस्टेक्स, अल्लाह ताला इज स्टिल लुकिंग आफ्टर देम, अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह।
And repair them. And subhanallah, repair can happen at any age.
Mm,
We have, I mean, again, that's actually one of the things of Tawbah. You have to go and fix it. And that
mm,
is the repair. You go and
mm,
talk to the, kids. When you were little, I used to be worried about your grades, because for me, in my brain that food is important. Otherwise, I was in scarcity mindset. And that's why I used to lose it. Just go and talk to them. And I apologize for that. I'm sorry for that.
mm,
Preparation is anytime, and that is a part of the Tawbah. We have to do that. There's no shame.
mm,
There's no guilt. There's
mm,
nothing. There's nothing. Nothing about it. Yeah, and I have
mm,
done it. Myself, subhanallah, it works. It works.
mm.
I witnessed
They
to it.
understand as well.
Yeah.
Talking to my son the other day, and he said, "You did it with good intention, it wasn't the right thing to do, but you still cared about us. That's why you did it." So, yeah, they're very understanding, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, and it's never too late. Never too
Mm,
late. Never too late. I mean, that's one thing we just want to take is repair. There's never too
mm,
late, no matter
mm.
what we did. Yeah, yeah.
Sister Aisha, you were asking a question. Please do. I'm sorry, we kept talking. Please
Oh
do
no,
ask.
it's completely fine. I just had a question. So, when there was like uh, pre- a page where which showed like the brain builds itself in strategies stages, the 0 to 3 age, that had the attachment part. So I had a question related to that. If there's like a kid that goes to the daycare at the age of 2 and their emotional needs are not met at that point, does it cause like attachment issues or like anything related to that?
I mean, that's a big thing. See, at that time, that's when those, those connections are getting formed between. So if the daycare lady is yelling at the kid and the kid is getting the terror, just by the tone or her facial expression, the kid is going to is getting scared. The kid doesn't feel safe when there are loud voices and, harsh voices. I mean, that's enough. It's not that they are, hitting. That's enough for that kid to feel unsafe. So it is going to be affecting that kid. Yes.
So like if a kid
Yeah.
is crying at the
Yeah.
age of 2, like I worked in a daycare and I
Yeah.
saw like if a kid is crying, and you have so many other kids at that point and you cannot like calm them all down at once. When I saw like the kid would be asked to sit in a specific area, that will be their calming down area, and they would just be asked to like there's a two and the kid is a 2-year-old kid, and he would just be asked to sit over there, calm himself down, and then come and then talk it out. So I feel like the emotional need at that point was not meant.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. So I was like, maybe that creates attachment problems as well for in later age.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, subhanallah. Actually, again, for humans, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created again the communities. Sister Faida mentioned in Masjid, it's, the communities, allo parenting, allo parenting. And, we have to, we have isolated ourselves, and then we're just using this, we're using the daycares. And if the daycares are not staffed well enough for the little ones, not the
Yeah,
best.
that's
Not,
what I've noticed. Yeah,
no, absolutely big issue, big issue. We got to be we got to be very, very, very careful at this age. We have to be extremely careful. The kid
exactly.
cannot, cannot soothe, as it and as a daycare person who's working there, if you're not able to get to the child because the other kids, at least once you're able to take care of it, just go and repair. Again, repair is huge. You just go and say, the kid might even not even understand your words, but even then going and soothing, I'm here for you, you're okay, or just even those words of care will be huge at that age. But this is very critical period. The 0 to 3 is very critical period.
Yeah, I've noticed. Yeah,
Yeah, subhanallah.
Sadly, they are making society so that both parents have to work. The income isn't enough for one person, and this kind of what Sister Aisha has brought up, the daycare centers and companies are providing little places where you can put your kids and then go and work. So it creates issues on raising them properly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I've
Yeah. And the next session, we'll see what are the harmful effects of that lack of time. I mean, trust me, once we know that, I don't think as parents we would be able to, unless they are, good caregivers who are attending to their needs, yeah, we would be very, very skeptical about not doing that role. It's very, 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 very important. Subhanallah. I mean, that's the whole thing about capitalism. Again, you have to understand, when you are in a system which is not Islamic, does not have the importance of the human being is this main, goal. But that's not in capitalism. It's about money. And they trap you in that money race, and you get in the money race, and they distract you from this very, very important amana. I told you, coming of that soul in the houses. I mean, when I was just making this presentation, that clicked, and I said, my God, I mean, did we even realize what responsibility came to us? Yeah, and that's what happens when the rest of the system is not, again, it's all interconnected. The capitalist system is going to cause this issue, with both parents have to work at this time. For what?
Yeah.
What is the connection of self-regulation and having a good relation and good life in later on? For that, is it
Yeah.
worth it?
I don't
Yeah.
think so. Like, it's not worth it. You
I'll-
need to be connected to your children. I've noticed, like, once, like, I had my kid in the daycare. Once I left the daycare and I was with my kid, I noticed so many changes. And yeah, I felt there was more, like, kid could easily calm down, and like attachment issues were not there. So yeah, I feel it very deeply.
Sister Farhana, there's a question there in Urdu. Can you make out?
No, Sister Faida, can you please read it out to me, or anyone else is
Right.
there?
अस्सलाम वालेकुम जी, मेरा सवाल ये है कि आप बच्चों को अच्छा माहौल भी देते हैं, उनकी तरबियत भी करते हैं, मगर फिर भी हमारे बच्चे हमसे उसे नहीं बाहर से जल्दी सीखते हैं, बाहर से जल्दी सीखते हैं, उनका जहन पे बाहर का असर फौरी होता है। इसमें हमें बच्चों को कैसे सिखाने की ज़रूरत है कि उनका माइंड अच्छी चीज़ को पिक नहीं करता, क्योंकि कोई ख़ास वजह है ये। सो दे आर मोर इन्फ्लुएंस बाय द आउटसाइड culture
Right.
than by what the parent is saying inside and preaching.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, again, that all the foundation is going to again be in the first 3 years. Again, it's probably more, 4, 5, 6. The kid is going to be seeing it's going to try to figure out what is the main purpose in this life. What is the thing which is appreciated. What is the one which people don't like. So it's kind of making that evaluation based on seeing what is happening in the parents, and then the close relatives, and so that's where it is going to make those determinations. So if those foundations are good, then even then the kid definitely will explore. When it goes into adolescence, it is going to explore what is the surrounding, what is the surrounding world saying. And again, here again will come down to Sister Faida's importance. It's not only we and yourself. Fixing the kid at home is not going to be helping. It is going to be the community, your community, the masjid, and then also the bigger, the government and the culture. The majority culture is going to play a very, very important role on to the kid. Because it's our human nature that the kid will, in his mind, can be processing that my parents are kind of working for someone else, and the kid wants to be with the ones who's on the top. So if unfortunately the one in the power, if they are of a different um, thinking or non-Islamic or anything like that, they can be influenced by them. And that's why it's very important to be in a Islamic system. So that's actually taking it up at a higher level, actually. So that is one of the reasons why they can do that. So foundation has to be laid very strongly at home, society, your community, your masajid. That's going to be important, but that's still not going to be enough, because the youth is still going to be looking up at the and then plus then you have to also install what the purpose is, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, who Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is, and why Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he starts asking questions at that time and is looking outside, you'll have to really have those discussions with him as to explain why Islam is the best, why Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whatever he said is the best. And like the presentation we did today, I mean, see what Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, the hadith, they are happening inside you. We have evidences for it. You'll have to go at that level to kind of have that discussion and convince him. Because otherwise what will happen is, if he's not a critical thinker and if he's not evaluating and reflecting deeply, he's just going to assume, oh, the atheists are doing very well in the world, maybe they are right, maybe my parents are, whatever they believe is wrong. So he can go towards that if he's not a critical thinker, deep reflector, has no exposure to who Allah is and the seerah and this what Islam is about, how Islam makes the world much, much better than what is going on. And look what is going on now because the atheists created whatever they think was right. So all these discussions you'll have to start doing once they go into that 14 years plus age. Yeah, hope that answers the question.
So does that mean you're going 777? So in the second seven sage, Sister
Yeah.
Farhana, उसके values better हैं कि नहीं?
Yes.
तो
हाँ, यहाँ पे आपको who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is and
हम्म,
who Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is and what is Islam.
हम्म,
You start
हम्म,
laying that foundations there, and
yeah,
then 14, he's still going to go and explore and compare,
yeah,
and then you
yeah,
have to have the discussion why
हम्म,
this is better, why that is not better. आपको critical thinking करनी पड़ेगी ये
हम्म,
14 to 25 में, वो discussions आपको होनी पड़ेंगी. Yeah.
हम्म. But if in the house we are saying Quran and Sunnah, but we are saying पैसे लेके आओ और जरा बड़ा post लो, we are doing that. So the values will go towards पैसा and is that right, Sister
Yeah,
Farhana?
yeah, yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
He will see through the hypocrisy right away. At
Mm-hmm.
age 14, he will see my
Mm-hmm.
parents are, are just saying but doing something else. So probably
Mm-hmm.
what they are saying does not matter. What they're doing is more important, is how he'll take it.
Yeah, and then he'll evaluate the next seven, the outside world based on those values that he feels the parents are
Yeah.
following. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And
Mm,
yeah. And,
mm,
and whatever foundation you learn, and subhanAllah, because as a kid, up until 14, they're not doing any thinking and analyzing, which is right, which is wrong. So they will, whatever the parents tell, they will believe. And you
mm,
probably have seen children in the age 5, 6, when they start going to school, the kindergarten teacher told you have to bring a yellow pencil, then they will fight
You
for it.
want a yellow
Not a
pencil.
yellow pen. I mean, I say that is the end of the world because they really take your word as God's word.
Yeah. Yeah,
If
nothing
it's
else will
not
do.
okay, she just said pencil. She didn't really mean, no, they will not buy it. That's the same thing with
Mm,
the parents. So they will not buy it until they go into 14 to 20, then they're thinking. And then then they will think, critical think. Then plus, of course, the desire is always there. The desire part of them is always there to pull them in
mm,
that direction. So that's another reason. So if their
mm,
self-regulation, self-control is not well developed, then let's just go with the desires. Let's go with the emotion of feeling good. That's the
mhm,
desire bit. So yeah.
mhm. Okay, that's good, Sister Hana. ये last question है फिर उसके बाद let's end off with dua for this very critical job that Allah Ta'ala has blessed us with to raise children, and hopefully we can do a better job and also undo the harm we've done, inshallah. So last question आपका है, from which age we should start teaching language?
Actually, so I have an entire section on language because language. So even from the zero, you got to keep talking to the sounds. The language development starts when the baby is in the womb. The brainstem, this development starts in the womb of the mom. So when the baby is able to hear the mom's voice, the tone, the sound when it is in the womb of the mom, and it'll be able to identify mom's voice way early.
Mm,
And a lot of again the connections between the hearing and the calm voice and the calm emotions, all the connections are good. The synapses are going to form very early. So zero, you want to talk to the baby.
mm,
And the the baby's brain will figure out the type of sounds. So the 800 types of sounds, the phonemes, 800 are there, and the baby at birth can identify each of them separately. And apparently by 6 years, baby will now narrow down only to the ones which it is hearing from its mom, and the surroundings, the sounds, the type of sounds. So 800 sounds are there. It will come down to, how many ever, 40, 50 sounds. And then after 1 year, and after 3, 4 years, it can't even distinguish the different sounds. So way early. And, Arabic, if you want a kid to know Arabic sounds. So even though a kid's not going to understand what the Quran is, but he can hear that the sounds way early, he will be able to, and he will make that tracks for register, those will start registering way early in the brainstem, so 0 before in pregnancy.
Wow. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I looked into language particularly because I was just curious about language, and I have some slides on that. Yeah, way early. Talk to the kid. Yeah.
So inshallah, the next talk we'll have on 0 to 3 years.
Yeah.
So, okay, good. Inshallah, we all look forward to it. I think, Sister Farhana, we close down with that, and next week हमारा brother Vikas के साथ है the Medina Blueprint. Again, a very important talk on how we progress as an ummah. We covered the Makkah period, so brother Vikas will take us through the Medina period. We'll end off now. Sister Farhana, over to you to make a dua for us to be better parents and to raise better children, inshallah.
Yeah. So, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Oh Allah, help us understand the gravity of the responsibility of being parents. Give us ilm and the right ilm and right knowledge, and the tools which we need to be a good parent. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, please help us, be able to regulate ourselves, regulate our emotions, and repair any relationships which are damaged or not or not with the best level in our personal lives. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us spread this beyond our families, beyond our families, to our friends, to our extended families, to the communities around us, and to the world at large. And let us understand, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, please give us understanding of our purpose on this planet Earth, our responsibility of instilling Allah's rules, regulations, systems which are optimal for the human being in this entire universe. And may Allah make us able to discuss this and explain this to others also, so that others who are non-Muslims may benefit from this as well. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والأسر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.